Artemi Panarin goes into God mode and carries the Rangers to a thrilling 5-4 overtime win over the Wild. We talk about why this may have been the best single-game performance by a Ranger all season.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1282 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So we got a lot to do today, jam-packed episode. Obviously, the Rangers claiming a sloppy yet nevertheless thrilling victory against the Minnesota Wild last night, 5-4 in overtime, a game that was back and forth the entire way through. Saw a whole bunch of mistakes made by each team that led to goals for the opposition. So, like I said, it was sloppy, but I think as Ranger fans, it's been a tough season. You got to enjoy exciting, dramatic wins like this, even if they were far from perfect, which this one obviously was. But one of the biggest reasons why the Rangers won this game, Artemi Panarin. He was in absolute God mode last night. That's basically how he's been since, I would say, the beginning of March. He's just scoring goals and dishing out assists at an absolutely torrid pace and out there contributing on a night in and night out basis. So going to break down his big night. We're also, in just a little while here, going to talk about the NHL debut of Gabe Perreault. I thought he had a solid performance in his first game. Obviously had to be some nerves, 19 years old, making your NHL debut with your team in the middle of a playoff chase. And I'm sure Perreault had those to work through, but he overall did well. And at the end of today's episode, going to talk about Cuylle winning the Stephen McDonald Extra Effort Award and why he was very clearly the best choice to bring home that hardware. But for right now, yeah, Artemi Panarin, 1 goal and 2 assists on the night, including the assist on Vincent Trocheck's overtime game winner. But honestly, he was having an awesome night long before he ever found the score sheet because he was everywhere. He was all over the ice, very noticeable, fighting for pucks, making some really nice passes on this night, willing himself to some high-danger scoring areas of the rink. There was one instance, I think it was the first period, where he was along the boards, had the puck, basically fought free of a defender, got himself right to the high slot area, took a shot from in deep there, and it was just a little bit better of a save. But Panarin was everywhere, looked dangerous every single time he was on the ice, there we go. And obviously shooting the puck early and often in this game. Artemi Panarin ended up with 7 shots on goal. He deserves a ton of credit for that. We've kind of lamented the fact that the Rangers seem allergic to shooting the puck, especially early in games. And Panarin deserves credit for shooting the puck so often. So too do the Rangers as a whole. The Rangers in this game ended up with 39 shots on goal, and 18 of them were in the first period. Now, on one hand, it is a little bit disappointing to see that number kind of taper off as the game progresses, but you know what? I'll take it. Like we said, this season has been light years away from being perfect or anything resembling perfect, and I just feel like the fact that they were shooting the puck early and often set a good tone for this game. Again, they made a lot of mistakes, and those were very prevalent throughout this game, but I don't think the effort was ever really in question in this game. Just the execution was. And the fact they got that many early shots, I think kind of, again, set the tone, and it boded well for the rest of the game. 18 shots on goal in the first period. It usually takes the Rangers like 4 games to produce that many first period shots. And that might be an exaggeration, but it's not much of one. A lot of us have been talking about how many games it feels like the Rangers at the end of the first period have like 4 shots on goal, 5, 6 shots on goal, whatever it might be. So it's nice to see them come out and actually pepper the net for a little while. And lo and behold, it worked. Firing the puck at the net and working hard for these scoring opportunities. It results in 5 goals for a Ranger team that recently has had some issues scoring, especially the power play. And the power play was no better in this game, but at least the Rangers were able to produce some offense and ultimately claim this win. But back to Panarin, obviously big hand in the overtime game winner. We had a situation where the Rangers started the overtime with JT Miller, Artemi Panarin, and K'Andre Miller I would prefer Adam Fox over K'Andre Miller on the ice in this situation, but that's neither here nor there. And obviously, it didn't really end up making that much of a difference because I'm not sure Miller even ended up touching the puck here. He might have, but if he did, it was very briefly. Bottom line, though, you get a face-off win for JT Miller. He immediately, after winning the puck, goes off the ice and subs out for Vincent Trocheck. And that first face-off of overtime is absolutely massive. The last two Ranger overtime games that we've seen, the team that won the face-off won the game without the opposition even touching the puck. The Rangers obviously recently lost a game in that fashion, and in this case, they win it. It took them just 24 seconds to get the win because they got possession of the puck off this face-off and never gave it up. JT Miller, by the way, as far as like why he's out there taking the face-off and not Trocheck, because Trocheck's a great face-off man in his own right. But JT Miller this season, he is at 58% success rate on the face-off dot with the New York Rangers after being at 58.6% with the Canucks. So absolutely elite when it comes to winning face-offs is JT Miller, and he won that one no problem. But bottom line, the play continues. Got Trocheck gaining the offensive zone, circling around behind the net. He passes back to Panarin. Panarin made a quick little move to get around a defender, got into the left face-off circle, and put the puck toward the net and toward Vincent Trocheck. Nobody was really sure if it was a shot or a pass. I mean, I thought it was a pass, but we'll have a quote from Panarin himself in just a second here. But bottom line, puck goes toward the net, and Vincent Trocheck is there. He redirects it in and gives the Rangers a dramatic overtime win. And one of those wins where I think you're just relieved as much as anything else. I mean, we know how big every single game is. I made the analogy, and I'll do it again here, that basically every game now is game 7 for the Rangers. You have to have that mentality if you're a player on this team, because that's what it's going to take if you're going to be one of the last teams into the postseason. At least they're still alive. At least these games are still meaningful at this point in the season. We can at least hang our hats on that, even if it has been a very challenging and frankly disappointing season for this Ranger team. They are still alive. Then you've got the Panarin quote on the overtime winner, and this is what I was talking about just a second ago. This is what he had to say about it, because he was asked if it was a pass or a shot. It was a pass. You know me. Come on. Whole arena say shoot. I'm like, all right, I know better. He may have said they know better. There were conflicting quotes that were posted there. Obviously, he's got that accent. I feel like, all right, I know better would have been more kind of on brand for Panarin with his kind of style of humor. And I mean, he said he passed it, and he said that everybody in the arena was saying shoot. So that would lead me to believe that it was indeed a pass, and he's kind of joking around that he knows better. So, yeah, I think it was a pass, and that's probably what he said. But just a fantastic performance all around from Artemi Panarin. Like I said, this guy has offensively put this team on his back recently, certainly in this game as well. He scored a big-time breakaway goal for the Rangers. You had a situation where the Wild coughed up the puck at the Ranger blue line. Panarin was all over it. He's off to the races. He had 2 defenders chasing him, gaining ground, trying to slow him down, do anything that they could. Didn't matter. He scored on the glove side, and that goal came with 1:04 remaining in the second period, and it gave the Rangers a 4-3 lead. We've kind of been disappointed by certain things that have happened at the end of periods for the Rangers throughout this season, so it was nice to see them, finally be sharp at the end of a period and get a big goal there to give the team a 4-3 lead. Unfortunately, they gave it back about 22 seconds into the third period, but at least that only tied the game rather than giving the Wild the lead, which is what it would have done if Panarin did not score here. There was also, continuing to break down Panarin's night here, a sequence that involved Brandon Othmann that I absolutely loved. Panarin is dying to get Brandon Othmann his first NHL goal, and they've linked up for some nice passes. That was on display in this game. It's been on display in a couple of games before this one as well. But in this case, I mean, it's one of those plays, as you see it developing, you think it's a goal. Panarin's got the puck on the left side. He passes to Othmann in deep on the other side of the net, right next to the goalie. And like I said, as this pass is making its way over to Othmann, you're pretty much putting it on the board. It was just a better save, but just a fantastic pass by Panarin here. And Othmann was kind of whacking away at it, trying to get the puck loose and get it into the net. A couple players on the Wild jump on Othmann, and Panarin got in there very quickly to back up his teammate. And there's a lot of people that say that this Ranger team is soft and everything, and there's nobody that's physical. And certainly I don't think this team has been nearly as physical this year as it was last season. And some of that has to do with, some of the players that are no longer here. But one thing I'll say about Panarin, he's not necessarily the guy that's going to go out there and mix things up and really stir the pot and do what Othmann did here, whacking away at the puck when the goalie has it. That's not something you're going to see Panarin do. But anytime that one of Panarin's line mates, one of his teammates gets into the middle of something like this, Panarin's not far behind. He saw a bunch of players in the Wild jump on Othmann here. Othmann and somebody, I forget who it was. Was it Boldy? Othmann and somebody on the Wild were basically, throwing a punch or two each way at each other with their gloves still on and everything. But there's Panarin. He was one of the first Rangers to get right into the middle of that. He locks up with one of his guys. So Panarin doesn't look for things like this, but he certainly doesn't shy away from them when it does happen. And I think that's something that he probably does not get enough credit for and has not gotten enough credit for over the years. Also, something that you got to love about this performance by Panarin, he picked up a lot of different teammates who had some really, really rough performances. And we're going to run through 4 of them here. There's at least 4, maybe more that we could go to. K'Andre Miller. This game is K'Andre Miller in a nutshell because there are some good things and then there's some really bad things too. He scored an absolute missile of a goal. You guys saw it. Anybody that watched this game, he's approaching the puck in the left faceoff circle. Nobody was really expecting him to shoot, especially from that angle, but he winds back and absolutely just tattoos a slap shot into the net, and you could not have placed this puck any more perfectly. It grazed off the goalie's shoulder, went into the net, top shelf. JT Miller comes over there to K'Andre Miller, and he says, what a bleeping shot. So that was pretty funny. So that was great, but then you've also got a situation at the start of the third period where it feels like another mental lapse for K'Andre Miller. I mean, at best, it's a physical mistake, which, again, it just can't happen in this kind of a situation in the game. Rangers are up 4-3, start of the third period, situation where Borgen stands up his guy on his opponent's drive to the net, and the puck goes to K'Andre Miller. He starts to skate away with it up the right side, and for some reason, he goes with a backhand pass right to the center of the ice. The Wild steal it. One pass later, the goal is scored, and just like that, we've got a tie game. So, I don't know. I mean, you think it's going to be a feel-good moment and maybe even a feel-good performance for K'Andre Miller, and then he does something like this, and you don't know why this is happening. You don't know why this continues to happen with K'Andre Miller. But obviously, Ranger fans were not happy about this, but Panarin's big-time performance and his clutch moments in this game, that kind of redirects the focus away from K'Andre Miller and onto Artemi Panarin and the strong performance that he had in this game. But Miller wasn't the only one, if we're being fair here. I thought Susie continues to be shaky at best for this Ranger team. He had some moments that did not look good where it felt like he was getting caught out of position. Some errant passes made by Susie where it felt like, they were pretty simple passes and he just couldn't connect. And on at least 1 or 2 occasions, it led to a turnover in the Ranger zone. So I like the Susie trade when it happened, but the early returns I don't think have been good. Vincent Trocheck, I know he got the game winner in overtime, and more power to him for sticking with it and coming up clutch when the Rangers needed him to, but he had a rough game up to that moment. There was a situation where the Rangers were shorthanded, get a short pass from Adam Fox to Vincent Trocheck, and I think Trocheck was a little surprised by this pass, but he tries to clear the puck and it gets knocked down, and for some reason, all the Rangers had started up the ice while they're shorthanded, so you've got 2 Wild players, like literally in the camera shot, it's 2 Wild players and Igor Shesterkin. So a couple of passes later, the puck ends up in the net. Trocheck was unable to obviously clear the puck there. And then whatever he was doing when the Rangers were on the power play, the Wild end up scoring a shorthanded goal because Trocheck's in the neutral zone, kind of like dancing around. And then he actually starts skating back toward the Ranger zone. And then he coughs up the puck. And again, 1 or 2 passes later, it's in the net for the Wild. So rough game for Trocheck. And Lafreniere is another one who I thought really kind of struggled in this game. You had Gabe Perreault. And we're going to talk about Gabe in a little bit here. But Gabe made a great pass to Lafreniere on the opposite side of the net. I mean, it was a little bit behind Lafreniere, but Lafreniere couldn't handle it. He falls down and had to actually apologize to Gabe Perreault on the bench for missing that pass. And then he also took a horrible interference penalty. No reason to do it. And that's when the Rangers were rolling. That put the Wild on a power play. Wild ended up scoring the first goal of the game on said power play. So I would say all 4 of these guys, K'Andre Miller, Carson Susie, Vincent Trocheck, Alexis Lafreniere. All 4 of these guys owe Artemi Panarin an adult beverage after this game. And Panarin went out there and basically just kind of thrived in the chaos because, like I said, this was a sloppy game. A lot of different goals scored as the result of just a glaring mistake by one team or the other, but he found a way to power the Rangers to a win, and more power to him for doing that. Going to keep everything rolling in just a second, talk about Gabe Perreault's debut and why I think it was a solid debut for the 19-year-old. We will do that in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Daylight savings snuck up on us again, and if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. Right now, you've got the ongoing college basketball NCAA March Madness tournament. We are down to the Final Four, and you can stay up late watching those games with 5 Hour Energy. You've also got on-the-go convenience. Whether you're at a game or traveling, 5 Hour Energy is easy to grab, and it will keep you feeling refreshed. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12 or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They are everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here on Locked On New York Rangers. Huge shout out to the everydayers as always. Rangers going to be back in action on Saturday at 12:30 against the Devils. Huge game there. Obviously, they're all huge at this point. Devils are always up for playing the Rangers, and they tend to give the Rangers their best, so the Rangers better be ready to throw it right back in their face and play with some desperation. Again, in this game last night, there was a lot you could nitpick and a lot of things that were not so good, but I didn't think it ever came down to lack of effort. It was just a lack of execution for the Rangers. So hopefully they bring that same kind of energy to this game, this critical game against the New Jersey Devils on Saturday. But let's go ahead and talk about Gabe Perreault and his performance in his NHL debut here. To begin with, you got all the pregame fun that goes on anytime somebody is making their NHL debut. He, of course, got to go out there for a few laps by himself without the helmet, taking a couple shots and whatnot. He had some of his BC teammates there in the front row. They were going nuts for him, as I'm sure you would expect. His family was there, including his parents, and got a very big, noticeable reaction from the Madison Square Garden crowd when he was announced as one of the starters for this game. So that was very cool to see as well. Certainly, I think John Harmon, if I'm not mistaken, from the live YouTube chat. John's always in here, talking Ranger hockey and having fun with all of us. And I believe that he was at this game last night, and he didn't plan it this way. He didn't know that Gabe Perreault was going to be making his debut. So, John, you saw a good one, man, and hope you enjoyed it. But to keep everything rolling here, so Gabe Perreault, first game, he ends the game as a -1. He got 13 minutes, 38 seconds of ice time, which was more than 3 Ranger forwards, Othman, Berard, and Carrick. It was less than every other Ranger forward, but I'm okay with 13:38. You'd like to see a little bit more, and it felt like his time on the ice certainly reduced in the third period, but you know what? That can build up over time. I think it'll be all right. I'm just glad we didn't see him get like 6 or 7 minutes. That would have been, there would have been a mutiny among Ranger fans if we saw that. So I think that's a decent chunk of ice time, and nice to see him out there in a prominent role in the top 6. And on the second power play unit as well, they started Gabe with JT Miller and Alexis Lafreniere, just like they did at practice. My personal preference was Cuylle, JT Miller, and Gabe Perreault, but I think this works too. I'm not going to argue about the kid getting a chance right out of the gate and being put into the top 6, especially alongside a player like JT Miller, who I think can, influence him, hopefully in a good way. But as far as like the highlights from this game for Perreault, he had a chance to score on what I believe was his second shift of the game. You got JT Miller. He's got the puck. He leads Gabe going to the net. Gabe fakes out an opponent, tries to feed Lafreniere on the other side, and Lafreniere, we talked about this just a minute ago, but he basically just wiped out, fell down. Again, the pass was a little bit behind him, but Lafreniere, by his own admission, should have been able to handle it, and did apologize to Gabe on the bench for not being able to do so. But I did see a couple of people making the obvious joke here on social media. It's an obvious joke, but it's still a funny joke, is that Gabe Perreault passing up a golden grade A scoring chance from in deep. Yeah, he's going to fit right in with the New York Rangers. And there definitely is some truth to that. There, of course, was also an unfortunate moment with Gabe Perreault a little bit later in this game. He was trying to close on a wide open Faber. Faber had the puck and all kinds of time and space in front of him, and Gabe got over there, but the shot deflected off of him and went into the net. That gave Minnesota a 2-1 lead. And this is where, look, you want to win this game no matter what, obviously. You want to win every game no matter what, obviously. But it's kind of like you see something like that happen, and it's like, man, let's pick this kid up, because that's a rough moment. I can't really say that he did anything wrong. Maybe he should have been over there in better defensive position, although this whole thing was set up by a board battle that was lost by the Rangers. Lafreniere and Borgen were both there. It was one of those 2-on-2 board battles in the corner, and the Wild came away with it clean, and you see the result of it here. So unfortunate, but just one of those things that can happen during the course of a hockey game. Glad to see that the Rangers, like I said, picked him up and got back in this game and ultimately won it. Then we had another chance for Gabe Perreault to score. This one was kind of a blink and you miss it kind of a play, but the Rangers had a face-off win in the offensive zone. Keandre Miller with a big shot from the blue line. It goes wide, but it bounces hard off the boards, comes back in front. Perreault was right there, but it zipped right by him. To be fair, this would have been very difficult, I think, for just about anybody to score. That puck was moving. It would have required just tremendous cat-like reflexes to be able to settle this puck and or, knock it into the net. Perreault almost got his stick on it. He was close. And for just a second there, you kind of do the, you're excited. You think that this might be his first goal, but it did get past him. And then he twice at the tail end of a Ranger power play almost got his first career goal, or rather his first career assist. A couple of nice passes to Johnny Brodzinski with the second unit on the ice after the first unit was mercifully taken off the ice. But bottom line, you've got Keandre Miller passing down low at the tail end of a power play here to Gabe Perreault. Perreault's in the right face-off circle. He's got his back to the net, and Perreault with a really nice one-touch pass into the slot to Johnny Brodzinski. Brodzinski takes a shot. Really nice glove save there. And then, there's only a matter of seconds left on the power play at this time. Maybe like 20 or so, give or take. So another offensive zone face-off incoming for the Rangers, and they win the face-off. And once again, Gabe Perreault with a really nice pass, centering pass to Johnny Brodzinski. Brodzinski lets it absolutely rip. This goalie had no chance of stopping it. Unfortunately, clangs off the post and stays out. So a lot of instances in this game where we saw, that crisp, decisive passing from Gabe Perreault. This is kind of what he's known for. He's known as being a facilitator more so than a sniper, and just seeing the game very well, squeezing passes through some tight lanes, having a high hockey IQ, just reading everything very well. And we saw a couple of instances in this game, perhaps none more obvious than the tail end of this power play here. And as far as the Ranger top power play unit, what are they now? Like 2 for 43, 2 for 45. It's hard to keep track of this on a game in a night out basis, but we'll give them one more game, and then we'll talk about that after the Devils game. However they perform, we're certainly going to focus in on the power play. There was just too much other good stuff that we had to get to in today's game, and the fact that they won, let's keep this as a positive episode, because there just haven't been enough of those this season, if we're being completely honest. But Gabe Perreault, we're talking about Brodzinski here. He was hanging out with Brodzinski during, the pregame warm-up and everything. And this is what he had to say, Gabe Perreault, on Johnny Brodzinski. He's been great, trying to take me under his wing, trying to help me as much as he can. It's good to have a guy like that makes you feel comfortable, that you can go talk to at any time. You know what? Just make Johnny Brodzinski the captain at this point. I'm getting to the point where I'm only half joking. Deep down, I know they're not going to do that. Deep down, I know they probably shouldn't do that. But you show me any player on this team right now that's doing more captain-like things than Johnny Brodzinski. I don't think that player exists. All these young guys that come up, the guys that Brodzinski was with on the Wolfpack, the guys that Brodzinski, most of them, captained while he was on the Wolfpack, I've just been raving about his leadership and how much he goes out of his way to watch out for them and make sure that they're all taken care of. And now we've got Gabe Perreault, who, to my knowledge, had never once met Johnny Brodzinski. Obviously, they were never with the Wolfpack together. So right out of college, goes into the NHL locker room, joins the Rangers, and it's Johnny Brodzinski who's throwing his arm around him and making sure that, he's taken care of, and hey, let me know if you need anything and all that good stuff. And to be fair, Perreault the other day did positively mention both Chris Kreider and Vincent Trocheck as being guys that, reached out to him and welcomed him to the team. So that's all well and good. But Johnny Brodzinski seems to be the one that's consistently going above and beyond when it comes to that. And that's obviously great to see. And I know we're taking a little detour from talking about Perreault to talk about Brodzinski here, But Brodzinski, as far as I'm concerned, his spot in the opening night roster next season should not be in question. I know there's prospects that everybody likes and they want to see them on this Ranger team. Brodzinski has made the absolute most of his minutes this season, and he has also stepped up in a leadership role when other players have not, or at the very least, have not done enough in that department. So Johnny Brodzinski, his spot should be secure for next season. A couple other quotes about Gabe Perreault here. We had Peter Laviolette talking about him. I thought he was really good. You can see his game and the way he thinks the game out there. I thought he played a solid game jumping into a big situation like that. And yeah, that's an aspect that I think deserves some notice as well, deserves some attention as well. Just the very simple fact that, Perreault, again, he played a solid game last night, and he's doing this with a team that is on the outside of the playoff picture looking in and desperately needs wins. This is not an easy situation. His teammate, Ryan Leonard, who debuted for the Caps, he's in a much better spot because they're in the playoffs. Like, they're going to make the playoffs. The Caps can basically treat the rest of the regular season like a preseason if they want to. So he's in a better spot than Gabe Perreault, or at least, I guess, a more comfortable spot. But Gabe Perreault, he's jumping in with this team with only, 8 games to go, now 7. And you got to treat every night like it's game 7 and fight for your playoff lives. That's not an easy situation. And I think he deserves credit for having a solid debut in said situation. Gabe also said this about his debut: super fun. Playing in this building is something I've never done before. And to finally get to be able to do it was unreal. He was also asked about the most surreal part of the entire experience. I think just getting out for that first lap in my first shift, once I got that out of the way, my nerves settled and I just kind of played from there. And I think there's something to be said for that. There's such a buildup, right? Signing the ELC and being at practice and being around the guys and being in the locker room and being out there for your pregame skate. And at a certain point, it's like, God, somebody please just drop the puck, right? You can just go out there and play hockey. And it's good to know that, Perreault, after he got, his warm-up out of the way and the first shift out of the way, that it just kind of became business as usual. Obviously, it's a much higher level than college, but it's still hockey, right? And he got to settle in and just do his thing. And like I said, I thought he had a pretty solid debut. The other kind of domino effect from this entire thing, Gabe Perreault being out there, is the effect that it had on the rest of the Ranger lineup. By Perreault being on the second line, it bumped Will Cuylle down to the third line, which also bumped Chris Kreider down to the fourth line. I did not think they would do this, but I don't think it's a mistake to do this either. I just think there are better options for the top 9 right now, especially after you insert Gabe Perreault into this lineup. You certainly don't want to put Perreault on the fourth line to begin his NHL career. And, Kreider, to his credit, did score a goal off of a wild turnover. He was quick to get to the loose puck in front of the net there and backhanded it home, so that was nice to see. But I don't know. I'm curious to see how they do this going forward, because you're not going to put Cuylle on the fourth line. He's just been too good. Who else is really an option now with Perreault being in this lineup to move down to the fourth line to get Kreider back into somewhere in the top 9? Lafreniere, I don't think they would do that. I don't know. I think Chris Kreider might be on the fourth line going forward here, which is kind of surreal, but also I think it's the right decision. And it's not an easy decision, but I think it really might be the right one. I also got to say, I think it's really cool that Gabe Perreault got to make his debut on a night where the Rangers presented the Stephen McDonald Extra Effort Award. It's always a very special night and obviously a very special accolade to the winner. So nice transition right there. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Will Cuylle obviously winning the award, talk about why he deserves it more than anybody on this Ranger team, and we will get to that in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NCAA tournament is here. We're into the Final Four, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who is cutting down the net. We all had our eyes on some underdogs this year, but we are now down to the Final Four. It's the 4-1 seeds that are left standing at the end of this thing. But even though the tournament is getting toward the end, there are still different things that you can bet on for the rest of the way here as we move forward to determining a national champion. And it's easy and fast. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here on Locked On New York Rangers. We're going to conclude today's episode by talking about what else the Stephen McDonald Extra Effort Award. It was obviously presented to Will Cuylle this season. I think it's a fantastic choice by the fans. That's something else. This award is determined exclusively by the Ranger fans. So hopefully everybody got to cast their ballot, before the deadline, whenever that was. I think about a week or so before this award was given out. But yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with Will Cuylle winning this award. He's been the front runner, I would say, coast to coast, basically the entire season. He was absolutely on fire to start the season. And I just think his style of play just really kind of embodies what this award is all about and what this award is made to represent. And the fans have spoken. They saw it too. A lot of you, I'm sure, voted in this. A lot of you, I'm sure, voted for Will Cuylle. If you voted for somebody else, sorry that your guy didn't win. But you can't go wrong with Will Cuylle. I don't think you could find a single Ranger fan that would argue against this. And it's hard to get Ranger fans to agree on just about anything. But even if he wasn't your top choice, you got to admit Will Cuylle was a pretty darn good choice to win this thing. And for the record, I did vote for Will Cuylle. And for my money, he was more deserving of this than anybody else. We're going to talk more about Cuylle and everything that he's brought to the table in just a second. But I did want to get through the ceremony itself, because the Rangers always do a really nice job with these things. First of all, you got PA announcer Joe Tollison welcoming everybody to the ceremony and everything. And let me just say as a quick aside, Joe Tollison does a heck of a job. He is an elite PA announcer, and he's probably one of the most underrated and maybe even underappreciated members of the Ranger family, the Ranger media. I mean, he's not really a media member, but you know what I mean. He goes out there and just does his job every game and never misses a beat. And I think does a fantastic job getting the fans hyped and, putting some good emphasis on the player names when they score. He's fantastic, and he certainly does not get enough credit. But he welcomed everybody to the proceedings. And for anybody that might not know, if you're a new Ranger fan, this award was established in 1987 for Stephen McDonald. Stephen McDonald passed away in 2017, but he was an NYPD patrolman who was shot and paralyzed in 1986, and it left him a quadriplegic. And they established this award in his name, in his honor, in his family's honor. And, he's a lifelong Ranger fan. He was before the tragedy. He was after the tragedy. And it's very clear the Rangers meant a lot to him. And it's unfortunate that he's no longer with us, but his family doing all that they can do to carry on his legacy and keep this wonderful tradition alive. The award, as it has been the last handful of seasons at least, was presented by Stephen McDonald's son, Connor McDonald, and also Connor's wife and their two kids. And Stephen McDonald's widow, Patty, was on hand as well. And, Connor took the mic, and he always does a great job with this. He talked about the privilege of seeing his father's legacy staying alive, and just the honor and the joy that he feels to be able to share it with his family and his kids. And this will go on forever. As long as there's Ranger hockey that exists in the universe, this award will be there, and as well it should. It's going to outlive every single one of us, once again, as well it should. But, it's great. Connor told Sam Rosen to enjoy his retirement. I thought that was a nice shout out there. He said something that I couldn't quite make out, but he definitely said something about the playoffs and something about, continuing to put in that extra effort to make the playoffs. So obviously, Connor's right on top of this team, just like we all are. And obviously hoping that they can still get in. And again, last night was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but the bottom line is they got 2 points. That's what really counts this time of the year. And every point is precious. And they got the win on the night that they present the Stephen McDonald Extra Effort Award, which is obviously a really nice thing. And then, of course, Will Cuylle skates over to accept the award after Connor introduces him. And like I said, no better choice. 75 games played for Will Cuylle this year, all 75 games played for the Rangers. Will Cuylle has laced up the skates. That in and of itself kind of helps your candidacy, I think, the fact that you play in every game, the fact that you're always out there. And Cuylle last year played in 81 games. So this dude is always on the ice. There's no doubt about that. The only other Rangers to play in all 75 games this season are Trocheck, Mika, Schneider, and Lafreniere. So only 5 different players. Will Borgen has actually played 77 games because he obviously was with the Kraken and now he's with the Rangers. So, Will Borgen's put in and work too. And should also shout out Sam Carrick. He's played in all but 1 game this season. And the only game he missed was the one where, he was away on parental leave, the birth of his child. So we'll cut Sam some slack for that one for sure. But yeah, man, Will Cuylle, excellent choice just by his brand of hockey. He's currently sitting at 18 goals and 21 assists. I would love to see him get to the 2020 mark, before the season ends. As a 22-year-old, I think that's a heck of accomplishment, especially when you consider the fact that most of those points, the vast majority of those points, in fact, all but 3 of those 39 points have not been on the power play. So he's doing the work at even strength and making things happen. And again, we're going to save the power play talk for the next game, the next episode. However they do, we'll reassess everything. Maybe some changes are coming to the top power play unit. I'm not really holding my breath, but Will Cuylle should be on that top power play unit right now, if for no other reason than just to try something different, which Peter Laviolette seems very, very stubborn to try to do, but we'll see how it goes against the Devils. So figure we can call it there. I mean, there were other good choices you could have gone with for this award, Brodzinski, Rempe. Honestly, either goalie for all the fire that they've been under this season and the lack of help that they've gotten in some of the strong games that each of them have had, even though Igor and Quick, both of their numbers are down this season, they have gotten precious little help throughout pretty much the majority of the season. I mentioned Carrick a minute ago. I think he would have been a good choice. But Cuylle, he was the obvious pick. He was the guy that should win this. He's the guy that did win this. And hey, this could be the first of many. Will Cuylle is 22 years old. It's only his second full season in the NHL. And this brand of hockey, I mean, Ranger fans are going to love this. If he keeps playing this way, if he keeps, bringing it every single night, bringing the effort every single night, if he keeps adding more and more offense to his game, he's going to be a very, very popular player on the Rangers for a long time to come, and probably somebody that at one time or another will end up wearing a letter on his jersey. I don't think that'll happen in the very near term, but sooner or later, that will happen. If Will Cuylle remains a Ranger, you will see that guy with a letter on his sweater before it's all said and done. But I figure we can call it there. If you guys would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @jchick17. Once again, that is @JCHIK17. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. We have reached 4,000 subscribers. So thank you guys so much to everybody that has subscribed. It really does mean a lot. And I will see you next time.